Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Carving It Up Live right here. Facebook Live, which we're having issues with right now, so I apologize to all of our Facebook viewers. We're also live on YouTube and Twitter, which are working. And I just got one thing to say. Dak got paid. That's all I got to say. Of course, we're going to get into that in just a second. Also, in about 20 minutes, my good buddy Barry Grant Jr. from the All Even podcast will be stopping by. This contract is his worst nightmare, to say the least, and he is a Cowboys fan, so that says a lot. Also, we'll discuss the whole issue with the NFL salary cap, and this is an issue that I don't feel like is getting enough press right now, at least today. There's been some notable cuts in the NFL because the salary cap dropped due to COVID, so we'll discuss that later in the show as well. Also, Myers Leonard in the NBA plays for the Miami Heat. He hasn't played this year due to injury, but he is he's in some hot water right now, and rightfully so. We'll discuss that later in the show as well. But I got to start with my main man, Dak Prescott. Now, of course, I'm wearing his jersey. This is not the first time I've worn a jersey on Carving It Up Live, so I do not apologize for that. But no, before I get into the contract, I will say this. Obviously, I didn't have a podcast back then. But going back, let's go back to about March of 2016. Now, I was a Cowboys fan back then. Now, I guess due to this 4-year deal, I gotta be a Cowboys fan again. I'm kind of like, let's put it this way. I'm with Dak the way some people are with LeBron. Now, Dak is obviously not LeBron. Dak is not even close in his sports what LeBron is. Okay? But, if you're a LeBron fan, like exclusively a fan of that guy, you were in Cleveland, and then you were in Miami, and then you were back in Cleveland, now you're in Los Angeles. I got no problem with that. Like, I'm all about, and I talked about this on another podcast that I was on. I got no problem, and it was actually with the Across the Pond Sports podcast. Check them out. But they had a certain name for it. I got to go back and listen to it and see what they had, like a certain name for if you're following an athlete for a certain amount of time. If you follow him or her from day one, you're good. But if you start following them and you're like a fan of that athlete exclusively when they're like, at the level LeBron James is or Kobe Bryant was or Jordan, something like that, that's ridiculous. So I've been a fan of this guy since March of 2016 before he was a Cowboy. God is my witness. When Dallas drafted Zeke 4th overall in 2016 and when they drafted Dak 135th overall, I would not lie to you guys. I swear to you guys, I was more excited about the Dak drafting. Swear. Wouldn't lie to you guys. That's I promise you that. But finally, I think everybody celebrated this deal for one of two reasons. One, you're happy for Dak. Everything he's been through in his personal life, right? He lost his mom to colon cancer his sophomore year of college at Mississippi State. He's continued to honor her legacy through, I believe, his Faith Fight Finish is like kind of his organization. A lot of, money goes to cancer research, which is just awesome, of course. Of course, we all know last year he lost his brother, his older brother, Jace, who took his own life right before the NFL draft, I believe. It was in late April. He had been dealing with some mental health issues. And then we find out right before the season starts that Dak had been going through his own mental health issues. And he was open about that. And I commend not just athletes, man, anybody that's open about their mental health struggles, God bless y'all. You think about Dak Prescott, you think about Kevin Love, who rightfully won almost said Oscar, won an ESPY last year for his vocalization about his own mental health issues and just kind of discussing the importance of talking about that. DeMar DeRozan as well in the NBA. So I think, and then of course you have the injury. 5 games in, he's on the franchise tag. He's got no long-term security. And Dak being Dak, he's trying to make a play. He's, most quarterbacks would slide. The Cowboys run a quarterback draw in the third quarter in a game against the New York Giants, a game that they really needed to win at that point. And Dak's trying to make a play in the third quarter. And here comes Logan Ryan, undersized corner, trying to tackle him. And Dak's stiff-arming him, trying to get him off. And Dak's ankle gets pinned under Logan Ryan. And his ankle gives, and that's the end of his season. We see him carted off the field. He's in tears. Just a really emotional moment. So this man's been through a lot. So I think everybody, regardless of how you feel about Dak or not, we were all, the collective NFL fans were happy for Dak Prescott in that aspect. And then the second reason you're happy is because this freaking story's over. Thank God. because we've been talking about this contract, I'm not joking, for probably about 2.5 years. Like going into, I remember even Dak's third year, he got off to a rough start that season. They had, pre-Amari Cooper, once they finally got a number one receiver. It was constant. What's Dak worth? Like that was the main question. Finally, that debate's over. And there's a lot to dive into here. But I want to focus a little bit on the press conference that Dak, Jerry Jones, and Stephen Jones had yesterday at the Star, which is by far the most elaborate practice facility probably in sports. Now, it's not shocking because Jerry Jones is worth over $8 billion. Shockingly enough, I don't think he's the richest owner in the NFL. But the Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable team, not just in the in the NFL, not just in America, but in the world. Valued at over $5 billion, $5.5 billion, I think is what the number is. And so, beautiful practice facility. They have an in-person press conference, of course, a social distancing, whole nine. And they're having this press conference. And I talked about it numerous times on the show. Is what confused me is Dak's price is going up as time goes on. Because of course, the Mahomes deal set the market. Dak was not getting more than Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, until the salary cap goes up drastically to what it's going to be once this new TV deal gets done. Nobody should make more than Patrick Mahomes. But his price tag keeps going up, and then you have the Deshaun Watson deal making $39 million a year that he signs right before the season starts. And it's like, man, you're blowing this, Jerry. You could have signed this man 2 years ago for $30 million, right? So, you could have really avoided that sort of issue, not signing Dak and saving yourself quite a bit of dough. But they were having this press conference, and you look at the deal, by the way, 4 years, $160 million, $126 million guaranteed. Dak's actually going to make $75 million. A lot to discuss there as far as a lot of ins and outs, loopholes in the contract. Dak's going to make $75 million this year. So Dak got what he wanted. He got $40 million. He got the 4-year deal that he wanted so that he can hit the open market again and get even more money, assuming that he's able to, continue to perform at a high level. But they're having this press conference, and Jerry Jones is asked a question, and I could tell. I was just watching Jerry the whole time, like, dang, Jerry looks pissed off right now. Like there's something didn't look right about Jerry. Steven was Steven. Of course, Dak is just beside himself. He's excited. His family's excited. It seemed like the whole Cowboys organization was. And Jerry's just kind of sitting there, and I didn't see Jerry smile much during this press conference. And he says, and it took me a while. This kind of went over my head initially, but I went back and I was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe he said this. He said, I've never regretted overpaying for something. Basically saying, anything I've ever overpaid for in my life, I've never regretted. So Jerry just straight up admitted, I overpaid for Dak. Now, of course, you know how much I love Dak. I think he's worth about, I hate putting price tags on, athletes because I feel like it's kind of messed up. But if I had a set price for him, of course, you want to get him as low as possible so that you could be able to distribute money elsewhere around the team. I'd put Dak right at the $35-36 million mark. That's where I put him. I feel like Mahomes at 45 sounds about right. I actually wouldn't have an issue with Brady if he made less than that. But look, we all know the reason Brady's won as many championships as he has is because he's not taken much of the salary cap and, allowed up until his last couple of years in New England when they just were devoid of talent, allowing the team to spend money, get stars in there, similar to what the Bucs did last year, getting Antonio Brown, getting Leonard Fournette, right? And so what I thought was interesting is that Dak's sitting there right next to him, and Jerry just admits, yeah, I overpaid for him. I was like, okay, he's sitting right there. And of course, we all know Steven did the exact same thing last year at Mike McCarthy's opening press conference. Steven laughs at every joke. It's not even a joke. Steven laughs at everything Jerry says or what Mike McCarthy said or what Dak says. It's just kind of weird. But it's also interesting to me, by the way, that Stephen Jones was really the guy that got the deal done. Because Todd France, you'd read over the past week, Jane Slater's reporting, Todd France, Dak's agent, Stephen Jones, of course, Jerry's son, that they have been having positive talks. Dak's in the team facility. He's getting, he's continued to rehab that injury, and he said he's healthy. And, the Cowboys posted a video on those social media platforms. Looks pretty healthy. He's moving great. So seemed like the surgery went well and the recoveries went well, which is, of course, great. But I just think it's interesting that, of course, Jerry had to approve it because he's the owner. But Steven's really the one who got this done with Todd France. So that's what I think is kind of interesting. And we've seen, Dak signing with Anheuser-Busch, which, by the way, the Cowboys are with Miller Lite. He signed with Coke. Dallas is with Pepsi. And so these different moves are happening. I'm thinking, man, Dak signing with the rival brand of the Cowboys' biggest sponsors. Then we have the situation where, and I talked about this, literally nobody talked about this on any show, but I noticed this because you got to keep your eye on social media sometimes. They have this poll on Instagram, on Instagram stories. You have these polls. And it was one of these Cowboys fan accounts, and they're going through all the Cowboys free agents, and you can vote re-sign or let go. I mean, pretty simple. You want this guy to come back, or are you okay with letting him walk in free agency? And so Dak comes up, and of course, the overwhelming majority of Cowboys Nation says, yeah, we want Dak back. And one of the people who voted let go was Jerry Jones' grandson. Yeah. You heard that right. Jerry Jones' grandson, who I believe that might actually, excuse me, I think it's Stephen Jones' son, might actually have a part ownership in the team. So, and something else that I think is, I heard a lot, especially going into last season, because look, Dak hadn't missed a start, of course, up until that gruesome ankle injury. Since Dak came into the league, he never missed a start. So we had never known anything, at least since 2015. We had never known a Dallas Cowboys offense without Dak Prescott for the past 4 years, right? And I heard a lot going into that season, like, well, Dak's got the offensive line. He's got the elite running back, and he's got the great receiving core. They had just drafted CeeDee Lamb, and CeeDee had a great rookie season. I liked CeeDee a lot coming out of the draft, and he played well. But they say you have the defense, and it's like offensive head coach Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy. And I'm thinking, were y'all here in 2015 when the previous franchise quarterback, Tony Romo, got hurt 2 games in? They went 1-11 without Tony Romo. They were bad. They were really bad. Matt Castle, Brandon Weeden, Kellen Moore. None of those 3 guys are in the NFL anymore. Kellen Moore, by the way, is the offensive coordinator in Dallas. Okay, so he obviously wasn't good enough to stick around. And so I just look at it and I say, okay, what would Dallas look like without Dak? And then, of course, we didn't want the injury. Nobody wanted the injury to happen. But it happens. Andy Dalton, capable backup. Andy Dalton's in that group, kind of with the Marcus Mariotas, the Ryan Fitzpatricks, low-end starter, high-end backup. That's how I describe Andy Dalton. Good quarterback. I mean, he's solid. He's been to the playoffs before. And Andy Dalton comes in, same receiving core Dak had, same elite running back Dak had. Both had, of course, horrible defenses. Both dealt with the same mediocre coaching staff. And Andy Dalton went great. Ben DiNucci, which I guess I can't put too much on Ben DiNucci. He was a 7th-round pick out of James Madison. Ben DiNucci was just straight garbage against Philadelphia. Okay, then you put this Garrett Gilbert kid in, and he actually was decent against the undefeated at the time Pittsburgh Steelers. Cowboys almost won that game. That was an indicator, though, of what Pittsburgh would turn out to be. Pretenders. But Dallas with Dak averaged 32 points a game. Without him, 21. So that's almost a full 2 touchdowns worse without Dak than with Dak. So I've heard for a while he's not valuable, right? He just puts up empty calories, empty stats. Okay, let's just look at this for a second. Let's just look at last season. Because people are pushing the side 2016 and 2018 when they made the playoffs, and he was so-so in 2017. Okay, let's just go to 2020. Okay, so they lose to the Rams, of course, first game of the season. Some people actually thought Dak played pretty well. For my expectations, I thought he was, I mean, they scored 17. He didn't turn the ball over, but I thought he could have been better, albeit against a great Rams defense. And so they play Atlanta the next week. You say they only won because of the miracle onside kick, and you were absolutely right. It's the worst special teams mistake I've personally ever seen on that onside kick. I still can't explain it. But let's just say hypothetically that Atlanta recovers that onside kick. Dallas would have still scored 37. So we go to the next week against the Seattle Seahawks. On the road, by the way, against Russell Wilson. At the time, Russ was the runaway favorite for MVP. And I think Russ ended up having like 5 touchdown passes in that game, so he was on a roll. And Dak is down 15, didn't play great through the first half. I'll give you that. But people talk about the empty calories against Seattle. Last I checked, with 3 minutes left, Dak Prescott left the field. Dallas had a 1-point lead, 31-30, with about 3 minutes left in the game. Defense could have stopped Seattle on a 4th down, which would have, in a sense, ended the game. Seattle converted. A few plays later, they scored the touchdown. They win the football game. Okay, against Cleveland. Dak throws for almost 250 yards in the 4th quarter alone. So, of course, we know this is pretty much impossible. But, if you do the math, the 4th quarter, I think he threw for 242, so close to 250. You multiply the 4th quarter by, that single quarter by 4, a full game, he's on pace for 1,000 yards in a single game. And Dallas puts up 38 points and loses by 2 scores. And then, of course, we all know against the Giants. People talk about empty calories. Andy Dalton saved the day. When Dak's ankle snapped, they were up. Dallas actually had an 8-point lead going in the 4th quarter, and they gave up the lead. Now, Andy Dalton had a great last drive. He did. The 2 great throws to Michael Gallup, especially that last throw was a beauty. But they had an 8-point lead going into the 4th quarter and blew it and could have easily lost that football game. So Dak had him on pace, and then, of course, he gets hurt, and they hang on by the skin of their teeth against a Giants team that at the time had not won a game yet. So, I mean, let's be real about something. And by the way, you look at, of course, Ben DiNucci was bad. Garrett Gilbert was bad. It's funny. We go into the final week of the season. I remember the narrative. I remember Dallas had won 3 straight games against the Bengals and the 49ers and the Eagles, none of which even came close to making the playoffs, all of which has bad defenses. San Francisco's defense was beat up. And we go into week 17, and Dallas needs 1 win and a Washington football team loss to make the playoffs. And they go into that last week, and I remember the narrative. Oh, if Andy Dalton makes the playoffs, this hurts Dak. Andy Dalton, you compare his numbers to Dak of the first 4 years of their career, they're awfully similar. And Andy Dalton lays a big, fat egg against the New York Giants. He was terrible. Okay, I think Dallas scored like 1 touchdown the whole game. They were not good. They lost 23-19 to the New York Giants. Of course, it didn't matter because Washington beat Philly anyway. But if Andy Dalton's as good as Dak, I mean, you'd have him in a position to make the playoffs, right? Because Dak's won 2 divisions. If Andy Dalton's not that much worse than Dak, surely Andy Dalton can carry you home and win the division. It's not the case. Now, here's a question before I bring Barry Grant Jr. on the show. Is Dallas a Super Bowl contender this year? Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. You look at Tampa Bay, loaded. I think they're the favorite out of the NFC easily. Green Bay's going to be right back. Don't really like New Orleans this year. I don't. They've lost some key players. We're going to talk about the salary cap later. They released Janoris Jenkins. They released Emmanuel Sanders. Breeze is, of course, going to retire. I don't know if Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill is the answer. They got major question marks. Is Seattle even going to have Russell Wilson? I think they will. I give it about a 60% chance Russell Wilson's going to be a Seahawk next year. San Francisco. Heck, can Jimmy Garoppolo stay healthy for a full season? Because, the last time he did, they went to the Super Bowl and came close to beating the mighty Kansas City Chiefs. So I think clear-cut favorites. Well, maybe it's not the boldest prediction in the world of the 2 teams out of who played in the NFC Championship game, Tampa Bay and Green Bay. Dallas is absolutely the favorite to win the NFC East. We got to see what Washington does with their quarterback situation. I like Taylor Heineke, but he's not the long-term answer at quarterback over there. And we got to see what they do. Chicago, now, do they land Deshaun Watson or Russ? There's a lot of question marks everywhere. So Dallas is a playoff team next year. I think they win about 10 games. I got them going 10-6, 10-7 if they add the 17th game. So those are a bunch of things we got to consider going forward. And by the way, Dak's, if you look at the last 10 years, this is the last point. Look at the last 10 years of Super Bowl champions, quarterbacks. All right. Historically speaking, if we're looking at just the last decade, the last 10 years, if your quarterback is taking up 13% of the salary cap or less, you've got a shot. If he's taking up 14% or more, it's really hard to win the Super Bowl, and it hasn't been done in the last decade. Interestingly enough, this season, Dak Prescott is taking up 10% of the salary cap. For context, a quarterback I like, but Matt Ryan in Atlanta is making more than double that. Matt Ryan's taking up 22% of the salary cap in Atlanta. Yeah, we don't think of Atlanta as a contender. Okay, Tom Brady's making right at 13% of the salary cap. So and by the way, I've multiple reports have said he's restructuring his deal, so he'll make less than that again. He'll take a pay cut, and we'll see what Tampa Bay does moving forward. Of course, they just signed Levante David, and they franchise tagged Chris Godwin. We'll see if they can get a long-term deal done with him. So Tampa Bay is going to be right back in the picture. But you look at Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson takes up 8% of Houston's cap space. So just some things to consider. I think Dak won because at the end of the day, Dak got what he wanted. But this was not, as lopsided as we think. Jerry actually, I feel like, did a really good job with the cap, and whoever the capologist is in Dallas, credit to them as well. Now I'm going to bring on my good buddy, my man Barry Grant Jr. from the All Even podcast, who was on this show not long ago. Barry, how you doing, man?
What's up, Bryson? How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's funny. I saw you on another show. I got to give him a shout out. Ryan Flowers from Clutch.
Shout out to my man Ryan Flowers, man.
100%, great dude.
Close Sports Talk, good show.
Yeah, it's a great show. But yeah, I saw you on this show, and I was like, yeah, I got to get him on. We got to talk some things out right now. So, for those of you that don't know, watching this, Barry hates this deal. Explain why.
$40 million a year. That's why I hate it. See, the thing is, a lot of people criticize my Dak angles because they associate it with me hating Dak Prescott. I don't hate Dak Prescott. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, which means that doesn't matter who the quarterback is, I will always root for Dallas. So I'm in it for whatever makes Dallas better long term. Dak got everything he wanted in this negotiation.
Yep.
That's what I didn't want. I didn't want him to get $40 million because at that precedent, we've never seen a quarterback make that type of money, AAV, and contend for Super Bowls. Could talk about the percentages of the cap and all that stuff. All that's really important. You laid it out really, really good. But the figure, the actual 40 number or anything 30 plus, how many Super Bowl winners do we have making that type of money?
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, if you're talking about that number, you're absolutely right. But the salary cap does matter. So if we're talking about the precedent, like if you're really thinking about it, I'm not saying this is going to be Dallas's next team of the next 4 years. We don't know what's going to happen over the next 4 years. But this is actually a golden opportunity considering what he's only making $22 million. That's going to count against the cap
this year.
Right. That is totally fair. But that is something that we do need to consider. One thing I will say is this is, of course, nobody would question Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I wouldn't have an issue if somebody put a Russell Wilson above him because I love Russ. But the consensus, we all pretty much agree Pat's the best. We look at the Super Bowl, and I'm going to discuss, what Kansas City's done in the past 24 hours. But a $45 million quarterback, and he's worth every penny as far as I'm concerned. He's a generational talent.
Right.
But, man, when you lose your offensive line and your defense can't buy a stop, no, I don't care how good you are, no quarterback's going to look good.
Yeah, Bryson. I mean, what we saw in the Super Bowl with Pat Mahomes, that he had that fear of God in his eyes, that may end up being his situation for the next 3 or 4 seasons. Because at that cap hit, and it's going to continue to go up, I'm sure they have a capologist that can be able to kind of finagle the numbers a bit, but you're not going to get it down any significant way to really help your team really benefit, throughout the roster. There's going to be some positions that are going to lack, and that offensive line is going to have major problems. To lose 2 of your bookend tackles. Now, everybody can talk about Eric Fisher, he had some health issues, and maybe they didn't want to wait around for him to come around. It's the business of football, right? Like casualties of war. That does happen. So, but at the same time, you lose the other one, and what do you have left? What do you have left in regards to keeping him upright with that potent offense? If he doesn't have time to throw the football, doesn't matter what weapons you have on the outside. Doesn't matter where your tight end is. Doesn't matter where your running back is. You're going to struggle. And they've never had a great defense. So can we honestly say that Kansas City's kind of in flux right now?
Well, I'll if we're on this Kansas City topic, then I'm just going to go and throw out my bold prediction right now. I'm just going to go and say it. The Kansas City Chiefs will not make it to the AFC Championship game next year.
That's fair.
Because if you look,
I can't disagree with you. Yeah.
Throw out the New England Patriots because they lose, they win. When they have Brady and Belichick, it didn't matter if they won or lost.
Right.
We expected them to at least get back or maybe get back to the conference championship game. But over the last few years, San Francisco, now I know they had injuries, weren't even close to what they were the year prior. The Rams, the Falcons, the Panthers. You could just keep going back in history, and it's hard to get back historically when you lose the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
and so then you have to release both of your tackles because the salary cap came down to what it did, and all of a sudden, I saw a tweet from Devin White of the Buccaneers. He said, "Wait, I thought this was the problem in the Super Bowl, that you didn't have these guys, and so now they're gone." But I just think that whole situation is interesting. Now, I got this question to ask about Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
What would you have preferred them done? What do you think they should have done with this whole Dak negotiations? If you suggest Jerry had won the negotiations, what do you think would have been the better alternative in your mind?
Well, for the longest, I thought that Jerry was playing the negotiations correctly, not giving in to Dak. There was not a lot of things being leaked out to the media. A couple weeks ago, we found out that what the number actually was for Dak, and there was some backlash in regards to certain fans, and people were kind of divided. People were like, "I don't care, pay Dak," and then you had people like me that was like, "No, 40, like no." My situation would have been completely extreme. Well, this point wouldn't have been, but I would have. I always wanted Jerry to let Dak test the market, let the market dictate what his value is. Not saying you don't want him back, but you could have said, "Hey, listen, Dak, we can't come to an agreement here. I don't really know what the right figure is. Give us a chance to match whatever team offers you a contract out there. It's not about we not wanting you. We just want to know exactly what the going rate is."
That's fair.
If he would have went out to the market and some team would have gave him $44 million, then exactly that some team was out there willing to give him that. But when you're negotiating against yourself, you don't know what his actual real value is. Everybody around the league respects Dak. Everybody says that Dak is a top 10 quarterback. Some people even say he's in the top 5, which is nonsense. But
I don't think he's top 5.
Yeah, definitely. He's nowhere near the top 5. But if you don't do that, or here's my point. Most people would have said that, yeah, he's respected, but would they have actually given him 40? Maybe not. Maybe he would have negotiated with a team and he would have probably got 34. 35, 36, 37, like, where you were saying where you would be comfortable of where his value was, or where you think that, quote unquote dollar figure amount value where he falls around the Russell Wilson line.
Right.
If he would have got that, then exactly what his value is. And then you would give the Cowboys a right to match. That was my strategy. And if, Dallas says, "Hey, listen, we think that that's too high," then at least you have that offer out there that you're not going to lose any money. And now Dallas is in a situation where they have to find a quarterback. So, that's my thing. It's not about not signing Dak. It's just about this number. And my problem is that how is it going to factor in, or how is it going to hamper my team year 2, year 3, year 4, when that cap hit continues to rise? After next season, that cap hit goes to $33.5 million. Then after that, it goes to 44, then 47. How much cap maneuvering can Jerry do to really get that cap hit to get lower than that? You still got to pay guys. You can't give everybody, signing bonuses. At the end of the day, everybody gets paid. Everybody needs their money. So Jerry only has a certain amount of cash that he can be able to give out of his pocket, right? He's not going to give out $1 billion to his players. He's not doing that. It's a cap for that. So, this is my thing is that, okay, Dak got his money, but after this season, there's huge question marks in regards to what Dallas can do. Now, I hear, there's a lot of people that said, because I had a show, just a couple hours ago with RJ Ochoa, who is the, chief editor of Blogging the Boys. So, really good interview. When that comes out, you're definitely going to check it out. And he was saying that, Amari Cooper, after next season, they can be able to cut him and really not, count anything.
Not have a bad cap hit.
It's going to be like
similar to Philadelphia. Philadelphia had to give up a king's ransom just to get rid of Carson Wentz.
Right.
So you wouldn't have that issue with Amari Cooper. I see what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. So, there's different situations that Dallas can be able to free up some space, but it's like, even still, it's everybody's projecting the cap to go up. But what happened this year, Bryson, what happened last year is that COVID hit.
Right.
Everybody expected the cap to continue to rise 15%, 10%, whatever it was. So all of those contracts that you saw, get cut, they were expecting the cap to be a certain number. Who's to say in another 2 or 3 years that the cap is going to continue to go up? Everybody's talking about the TV deal, but we don't know what life is going to be. It's all projections. So Dallas can end up being just like the Saints. They can be just like the Rams. They can be just like the Chiefs. They can have some problems here. And if you would have not gone to this particular number, and other teams that are going to be in the same situation come next year with Lamar Jackson, with Josh Allen, Josh Allen is going to probably get $45 million.
Right.
Lamar Jackson may end up getting 50. Like, where is the number? When is it going to get to a point where that bubble bursts, Bryson, where you have to actually reset that market? Because at the end of the day, I hear a lot of people saying they want to be in a great situation and win. But if you're taking all that money, you're taking away from different positions on your team that can actually make you win. That's my problem. Dak is a great leader. And everybody, and you even said it, you even say it yourself. Tom Brady's the GOAT. There's a reason why Tom Brady's the GOAT. He's the GOAT on the field in regards to winning, and he's the GOAT in regards to negotiations as well. Because he says, and if Brady would probably tell you, if it wasn't for the NFL Players Union, he would probably take $6 million a year. But the fact that he's such a great player, he can't do that.
Yeah.
He has to take a certain number to make it respectable. He would take $5 million and just give it to the rest of the team. As long as it continues to make him win, he could care less. That's what I'm talking about. At what point do we look at guys and say, okay, you're taking all of this money, cool, get your money, get every dollar that you possibly can. Generational wealth is important, especially for African Americans. That's great. But when we're talking about a team concept, you taking $40 million and all this money, taken away from somebody else on that team that's going to be in a contract situation 2 or 3 years from now.
But that's my retort to that is that's where I think Jerry messed up. Is I said it a few minutes ago. 2.5 years ago, we're going into year 3 of Dak, and we had heard numbers about 28, 29, 30, like just over what Jimmy Garoppolo got. And by the way, now Jimmy Garoppolo, think of him what you want. He's not making a boatload. I mean, compared to what Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers are making, and Jared Goff and Dak. But I would say Jerry saved or could have saved himself a ton of money, tens of $10 million, $20 million over the course of the next few years if he gives Dak $30 million 2-3 years ago. That's what you go ahead.
Yeah, well, my response to that is that would you pay for something that you're not sure on?
But I would say, why would you not be sure of him? Because what's the better option? Like you didn't, in fairness, you didn't really answer my question. What do you think the Cowboys? What other alternative is there to Dak in your mind this year?
Well, listen, I would have went extreme, bro. I would have went, I would have signed Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year, draft a Mac Jones, let Mac Jones sit for a year, and let him ride the wave. You have that offense. You can be able to do a lot of special things if you're a system quarterback. There's a lot of options. That's what I'm saying. It's like everybody wanted to say that they're hamstrung with taking Dak. You have to sign Dak. No, you don't. You had options. Are those options sexier than signing your homegrown talent? No, but there are options. Are those options going to be popular or favorable, or to have people not look at you like you're crazy? Of course, they're going to look at you like you're nuts, but it's still an option that you have. So for people to say that there was no option, of course there's always options. It's what the PR will make you comfortable accepting, and what your fans are going to be comfortable swallowing. That's basically it.
I might have to kick you off my show for bringing up Mac Jones, man.
But
Mac Jones.
Bryson, listen to me. We saw this year that you said it yourself. Andy Dalton is a serviceable quarterback.
Yes, he is.
The Cowboys weren't that bad on the Dalton. In the 4 wins, what they have 4 wins in the last.
Who are those 4 wins against Barry?
It doesn't matter. This is the National Football League.
But against the good teams,
all wins count.
You're right.
They averaged over 30 points in those wins. So they were able to put up points even with a average quarterback, is what I'm saying. You made the point about him laying a dud in week 17 against the Giants. That's fair. Didn't Dak lay a dud against the Eagles the year before that?
He did. I will give you that.
That cost them the actual division.
I will totally give you that. That is absolutely fair.
What I'm saying is, like, everybody has to. I understand the Dak love affair. I respect the man. I think he's a great man. I think his story is amazing. But for people to behave like Dak doesn't have flaws as a quarterback, they're mistaken. He does have a lot of flaws. And that's what I'm saying. Is $40 million going to mask those flaws? No, it's not. It's actually going to put more pressure on Dak Prescott. Now, the pressure in regards to not having a long-term contract will be off of him.
That's gone.
So hopefully his performance will be better, but he's still a flawed quarterback. And I need to see how he performs if he's going to be able to live up to this contract. I have no idea, Bryson. But what I do know is that particular number is a death number to football teams. If it's 35 plus, it's a death number. A different situation. Russell Wilson is not happy in Seattle, right?
Right.
They have drafted poorly since he's been there.
Yes.
The fact that he's making that type of cash, they are strapped in regards to what they can be able to do financially to help them get better. So it's okay, you're mad. You want things to be better, but your contract doesn't help them any.
That's true, but you look at what Kansas City's done the draft last few years, and it's been pretty darn strong since they did draft Patrick Mahomes.
Hopefully it will continue, because if it doesn't, they're going to be in big trouble.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. But I would say this, and by the way, this is not an excuse. Dak should have played better against the Philadelphia Eagles week 16 of 2019.
Right.
Should have played better. But I will say the man couldn't feel his throwing shoulder. He had no feeling whatsoever in his throwing shoulder. I'm not saying that's an excuse.
Well, you're kind of using it as an excuse, because the thing is, if you're not healthy enough to play, don't play. Nobody would have looked at Dak crazy if he wasn't able to play that game because of the injury that he had. He wasn't able to throw the entire week.
You're right.
So that's my thing. It's like, if you can't perform at the level that people expect you to perform at, we can't use it as an excuse. You lost, and you lost the division. It's important.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that's the way I look at it, man. It's that, Dak, great player. I'm not even gonna say great. He's a very good player. He can be great. He does have the potential to be great. He has the mindset. He has the leadership qualities. He's in an organization that trusts him fully with that organization. The players respect him. He has a chance to do something really special, but I need to see it. I need to see it.
That's the thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's it.
No, I mean, over the next 4 years, you're right. And I'll say this, as big of a Dak fan as I am, and as difficult as it is to win with this franchise, the expectation, if you're making $40 million a year, you need to be in contention for a Super Bowl, unless otherwise the contract's a total failure.
Yes.
That's the standard.
Right.
If you're making that number, because only one other guy makes in excess of that number, and he's pretty good. But I would say also, I've talked about Mac Jones on the show, and last year with Joe Burrow, and I was dead wrong on Joe. But nobody's thinking Mac Jones better than
be dead wrong on Joe, Bryson.
It's a long story. I don't want to talk about it. But here's the thing with Mac Jones. People talk about, he's deadly accurate. I would hope so if a receiver's open by 15 yards.
But
he hit the Heisman Trophy winner.
Right. But can you blame him for that? You can't blame a kid that has all this talent around him. He still has to deliver the football. Could we be killing him if those guys were 15 yards open and he was overshooting him by 4 yards? Right. No, you're right. But I'm saying he hasn't proven it though. That he can make those NFL throws. But he does have talent though. He's talented. He may just be a system quarterback, Bryson. And if he goes into the right system,
most Alabama quarterbacks are.
Yeah.
Even Tua. I loved Tua coming out of the draft as long as he was healthy, and then he kind of got exposed a little bit.
I agree. Yes.
But I'll just give you this. We'll move on to the salary cap. Since Dak has come into the league, this is not little things. Yards per attempt, best in the NFL. Touchdown interception ratio, fourth best in the NFL. Passer rating, third in the NFL. On deep passing, his completion percentage is second in football. Passing yards per attempt, I already said that. And by the way, I said you guys actually reacted to my comment here. He's got the third highest passer rating in NFL history, behind Russell Wilson and Dan Marino.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm just saying, I'm not saying he's worth $40 million. I don't think he's worth 40. I don't. But I keep reiterating, like, what other options? I mean, do you go with the guy that's unproven? That's why, I've heard murmurs, like maybe the Jaguars, and I know it's in the division, but I've heard murmurs with the Jaguars trade the number one pick for Deshaun Watson. I wouldn't. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be special when you look at his talent. But you have to look at what your options are. And I don't know if Ryan Fitzpatrick and Mac Jones is exactly going to put Dallas in Super Bowl contention. Listen, I respect him. I respect him. He's a nice quarterback, but he's not Dak. He's not even close to Dak. And I think Mac Jones is going to be a straight up bust. I mean, no disrespect to the kid, but I think he's going to be a bust.
All due respect, Bryson. You said
with all due respect.
All due respect, Bryson. You said that Burrow would be a bust too. So
we're all wrong sometimes. I mean, I did say.
Listen, you know what? We're gonna put it out right now. Because we've been talking a little bit behind the scenes. So we got. Do you want to tell people about the bet that we have?
We got a bet. Get it out there. We got a bet, ladies and gentlemen. So we've been DMing back and forth since Dak got we started talking before the contract was signed, and then when we really ramped it up, it was Monday night when the news came out. So let's make sure we have an agreement in front of everybody to see. So we're going all in here. You're saying the Dallas Cowboys will not make the playoffs. Is that correct? That was the bet we had, right?
Yeah, I'm sticking with it.
You're sticking with it. You're sticking with it. Okay.
They're going to go 8-8.
8-8. All right. That seems to be their mantra over there the last decade. So if the Dallas Cowboys go 8-8, 9-7-ish, whatever, they don't win the division, they don't make the playoffs. Okay. I got to go on your show. And I got to say, Dak's overrated, not worth a penny over $20 million. And he's held this franchise back for 5 years. I got to go all in. I got to just.
I also would like to put something else in there as well.
What's that?
I would need the hat to come off as well.
Oh.
I would need the hat to come off.
Christmas present too. Dang. All right. Okay. All right.
You don't have to damage the hat.
I'm not hurting the hat, man.
You just gotta lay it down and just say, listen, it can't go on this show.
I've seen your Instagram. You've done something similar. So, okay. But however, my bet, and I still think this is a little over the top when I think about it, but I'm going to stick with it. If the Dallas Cowboys go to the NFC Championship game,
Mm.
you, my friend, have to go on my show. I'd like you to have a Dak Prescott jersey if you have one on hand. I think you do.
Listen, if I don't, I'll buy one.
You'll buy one. Okay. You're going to have to wear your Dak jersey, and you're going to have to call him a top 5 quarterback. You're going to have to say, this dude's a future MVP. You know, he's on pace to have a first ballot Hall of Fame career.
Oh,
now,
goodness.
if Dallas, say, gets to in between, I think in between that would be divisional round. Let's say they lose in the divisional round to Tampa Bay, Green Bay, somebody.
Yeah.
We'll call it even.
Okay.
That's dropped.
That's fair.
What do we do with the wild card, though? That's like the last, because I'm closer to being right than you were, because
I think if they lose in the wild card, I think I'll give you the edge. That's me. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
I'll give it to you.
You're a good dude. You're a good dude. I respect that. So we got the bet. We got the deal. Virtual handshake.
We're good. We're good.
We got it. Okay, then. There we go. So let's talk about real quick the salary cap in the NFL, which, of course, as you detailed many times, it has dropped. And we've seen some, and we've heard from Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, multiple sources, there's going to be some notable players released. Emmanuel Sanders is gone.
It started, Bryson, and it's going to get worse.
It is, especially once free agency starts.
Yeah.
Janoris Jenkins is gone from the Saints. Of course, we heard about the 2 tackles in Kansas City, most notably Eric Fisher, who I believe at one point in his career was a Pro Bowler before the injury. He was
former number 1 pick, right?
Number 1 pick in 2013. You're absolutely correct. J.J. Watt. Now, J.J. Watt probably forced his way out of Houston because he didn't want to be there anymore. Yeah. But I've even heard reports some Pro Bowl level players, like right now, guys who would make the Pro Bowl today, they're going to get cut.
Yeah.
This is a terrible year to be a free agent. How do you think this affects, who do you think has the edge as far as maybe picking up a veteran player like an Emmanuel Sanders, like, a nice outside physical corner in Janoris Jenkins? What team do you think has the edge when it comes to not having to give up these valuable players? Like teams that are in championship contention, not the Jets, not the Jaguars.
It's a good question. I kind of put New England in that kind of like, they're in the middle. Like Bill Belichick is probably smiling from ear to ear right now because that guy is the master of the prove it deal, right?
You're right.
1-year deal, incentive laced. You can probably get half of the contract guaranteed, XX or whatever. Expect him to make big splashes in regards to many prove it deals. I can see Emmanuel Sanders going to the Pats on a prove it deal. Okay. I can see, I can see Jack Rabbit going to the Pats on a prove it deal. There's a lot of guys that are going to have to settle for 1-year contracts. If they want multiple years, they're going to have to take less severely what's under their value. You know what I mean? So it's, I got to look at, you got to tell me, if you can pull it up, tell me the teams that have the biggest amount of cap space right now. Because I think I know the Raiders.
They're not great. Not like there's very few that are in championship contention. Right. I just mentioned the teams with the 2 highest picks in the draft. Both are probably looking for quarterbacks. Right. So nobody. I mean, the Saints are in. This is why the Saints are making so many cuts. They're in a terrible situation with salary cap.
The Saints cap situation looks like an NBA team.
So luxury. Well, the NBA at least had luxury tax.
When the Warriors were winning, they were like $50 million over the cap or whatever because they can afford it. They the owner can be able to pay that luxury tax and keep that team together. It's fine. What they're under right now, I don't think I've ever seen because they stockpiled that team because they were a championship ready team for the last 3-4 years. Yep. So they were looking at it like, listen, if we get to that Super Bowl, we win that Super Bowl, then we can be able to figure it out after. They didn't win that Super Bowl. Now they're in scramble mode because what do you do? When you look at that roster and you see the cap hits, the dead cap money that they have in certain players, it's alarming, Bryson. Like me and Mike Guido were going over it last night on our show, All Even Live on IG. Man, it was sad. Like we were looking at it and we were just like, we know football, but I don't know what to do with this. Like, I wouldn't even know where to go and who to cut. Like, all the contracts look bad. They all do. You know,
Well, I would say outside of Alvin Kamara, he had a pretty darn
outside
solid,
of Kamara, obviously Michael Thomas, but you look at Taysom Hill's contract.
Yeah.
All of these contracts here are going to be evaluated. It's really going to be shocking of what they're going to have to do.
Well, if you're a Saints fan, if there is one silver lining, this has been a great drafting team. Might be the best in the NFL. I mean, as far as the elite teams, they've drafted better than probably everybody. So if you can shake that out, if you can continue to draft the way you've drafted, you'll have a shot. Especially they've taken some great defensive linemen over the last couple of years.
Agreed.
But I over the summer I talked about it, especially after the Drew Brees controversy happened. This feels a lot like we saw The Last Dance. It feels like a lot like the Bulls in '98. Just pushing all the decks to the table. 1 year, go after it. Drew's going to ride off in the sunset, and we're going to be in a total rebuild.
Right.
That feels like it's. Of course, they came up short losing at Tampa Bay. That feels like it's manifesting itself right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's something we got to look out for. Now, as far as your show, what do you got coming up for the viewers watching this to check out your content?
Well, Saturday I have my podcast, All Even Podcast. My that show, Saturday show, is pretty interesting because I always do a phone a friend. So, we talk about a whole bunch of, nonsense about sports, and it's a great time. And then later on that day, I have a All Even Podcast special interview, creators interview type of thing. You were on it on a Monday. I think we did it on a Monday.
Yes, we did.
That's one of my favorite shows because we can be able to talk to different people, like music artists and creators like us, and just people from different walks of life, and see exactly what their story is, and then we talk sports and see exactly how much they know about sports. So it's really a fun time. I love my Saturdays, and then Tuesday podcast again, and then Wednesday I host All Even Live with Mike Guido, who's a crazy man. And then Thursday we have the interview show, All Even Live exclusive, where we interview past ex NFL players, NBA players, up and coming media people, established media people. So a lot going on, but it's fun. Work is always fun. It never feels like work when you love what you do. You know what I mean?
100%. Grant Jr. from the All Even Podcast. Appreciate you coming on the show on such short notice, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're great at what you do, and have a good one, man.
Nah, I appreciate you, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Bright future, my man.
Appreciate it.
All right.
That was Barry Grant Jr. from the All Even Podcast. He does bring up very good points about the salary cap, about Dak Prescott. And especially the New Orleans Saints. I don't know what the heck they're going to do. They are a great drafting team, so they're going to have to. I could see them really trading up the draft, honestly, and taking maybe a Trey Lance. I doubt Justin Fields will be available middle of the first round. We could see what happens with that, but maybe signing a Cam Newton in free agency. I wouldn't rule that out. He's a better option than Taysom Hill, so that's something to look out for. Speaking, by the way, of Barry's show, he has a segment called I believe it's called Dummy of the Week, and man, somebody stepped in it the last couple of days, and that would be Myers Leonard of the Miami Heat. Now, he was doing a video game live stream. I believe over like 800 people were watching it. It was something it was crazy. There's a lot of people watching the stream. And listen, I get it. You're streaming, you're losing, you get frustrated, you curse. I mean, that's kind of how it goes. But he's doing this live stream with a fellow gamer, and again, a lot of people are watching this, and Myers Leonard is playing this game. Apparently, he's getting beaten badly, and this was his exact quote. He uttered an anti-Semitic slur. Of course, Lord knows I'm not going to repeat it. But he said, effing cowards, don't effing snipe me, you effing slur, B word. So he clearly, if you're going to use the other language, dropping F-bombs and calling the guy, the B word, you clearly meant that slur as an insult. And he said in his apology that I didn't know what the word meant. I didn't know this. I didn't know. Whether he did or not, he clearly meant it as an insult. Yeah, that was not a term of endearment. That, and again, we don't know if the guy he was playing is Jewish. I don't know, but I would say I hear a lot of people, saying, "Oh, cancel culture, it's real." Listen, cancel culture is real. If you screw up one time, you could be done for, right? And I'm always, me, I'm always about second chances. One of the great second chance stories in the NFL, in my view, is Michael Vick. We know what he did off the field with the Dogs, and it was really bad, really bad. But he turned his life around. Andy Reid signed him, and Michael Vick talks about Andy Reid like he's his dad, because Andy Reid gave Michael Vick a second chance. He took the opportunity, ran with it, and now he's on Fox Sports doing the NFL every Sunday during the season, and he's got a great career. So I'm always about, if someone steps in it, give him a second chance. So I think listen, I'm not Jewish, I'm a Christian, but so I think it's totally up to. I'm going to leave this kind of stuff to the Jewish community to decide among themselves. But if he can take advantage of a second opportunity, because I don't know if he's a nice player. He's a big man that can shoot threes. He's not like a big part of a championship contending team or anything of that nature. So that's not even the question. If he could show up and apologize for what he did, because here's what I didn't like about his apology: a lot of excuse making. He apologized. When you apologize for something, I'm sorry for what I did. I'll do better. Done. You don't need to go, well, I didn't know what the word meant. Well, you knew it wasn't something good, because looking at the context of you read the quote, what he was saying. I saw the video. He was ticked off by whatever was going on in the video game. We saw last year with Kyle Larson in NASCAR. He was doing a live stream. They were playing some kind of race car simulating game, something like that, and he uttered the N-word. And it's like, okay, that just kind of slipped off your tongue pretty easily. So this isn't like the first time you've ever said this word. And Kyle Larson's getting a second opportunity. And I hope, by the way, I saw actually before the Daytona 500, Kyle Larson did an interview with Emmanuel Acho, he's as good as it gets. He's actually going to host, I don't watch the show, but he's going to host The Bachelor on Monday. I think it's called like After the Final Rose or something. Get Emmanuel Acho's book, by the way, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Phenomenal book. You guys got to get this. It's amazing. But he was doing this interview with Acho. Kyle Larson was, a year removed from that controversy. So does Myers Leonard deserve a second chance? I think we all deserve a second chance. I think there's certain certain things, like if he said certain things, probably be the end of his career. But if he gets a second chance, he needs to make the most of it. And again, I'm always in this situation. I'm all about second chances. But if you're playing a video game with somebody, just assume, especially you're an NBA player, so people know. I mean, he's not like known by, I guess, the common fan, but I know who he is. I've watched him. He played a great playoff game against my Golden State Warriors a couple of years ago when he was in Portland. So NBA fans, like if you're really plugged in, you know who Myers Leonard is. 6'11" guy, can shoot threes. I mean, he's fairly valuable, but not like he's gonna win you a championship or anything. But you know who he is. If that just slips off the tongue that easy, that's not a great look. And he clearly, again, he meant it as an insult, because immediately following the slur, he used the B word, which is not a term of endearment. At least male to male is not a term of endearment. So look, it's up to the Miami Heat organization. It's up to, more importantly, the Jewish community to forgive him. And I saw what Julian Edelman, who's Jewish, posted on social media. He was saying, look, we can talk about this. Julian actually did the same thing when Deshaun Jackson was like quoting Hitler or something last summer. And by the way, that slur was used by was used by the Nazis in Nazi Germany back in the late 1930s, early 1940s. So this is serious stuff. And this is not anything to take lightly. And I will also, by the way, you know what I think about Adam Silver? I think he's the best commissioner in sports by a mile. Rob Manfred's decent. Goodell's in some hot water himself with some of the allegations made against him by former NFL players about CTE and this cognitive test thing, which, man, as this develops, it'll be a story to follow. But I think Adam Silver's the best commissioner in sports. This has got to be the biggest slap on the wrist punishment I've ever seen. So keep in mind, by the way, Myers Leonard is out for the season. He's got an injured shoulder. He's done for the season. And, excuse me, Adam Silver's punishment for him is a $50,000 fine and a 1-week suspension. 1 week. For context, Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz criticized officiating in a game against the Philadelphia 76ers last week. He criticized the officials, which we know gets you fined. Donovan Mitchell got fined. If Donovan Mitchell, let's just put it in context, because of what Donovan got fined last week for his criticism of officials, if Donovan Mitchell criticized an officials twice, he gets fined the exact same amount of money as Myers Leonard did for using an anti-Semitic slur. Think about that. Criticizing officials and using an anti-Semitic slur. Big difference. And I gotta get on that. Excuse me. I gotta get him at Adam Silver for that. That's it. I'm not saying like suspend him for like 2 years or something, but come on. 1 week. That's it. Ezekiel Elliott got suspended 6 games, so 6 weeks basically, for something he didn't even do. So we gotta. I know it's a separate league, the NFL, but we just gotta look at how we. I'm not saying I don't have a punishment for Myers Leonard. I'm not the commissioner. All I know is 1 week, $50,000 is not enough. It's not. Okay, Donovan Mitchell shouldn't get fined only half that for criticizing officials. Come on, yeah. I mean, come on, NBA. Y'all be better about this one. Especially, we're coming off a year where we're talking about social justice. We want racial equality. We want an end to police brutality. And Jeremy Lin and the eloquent words he said about stop Asian hate. I saw a video Jeremy Lin posted earlier today on Instagram. We all remember Jeremy Lin. Linsanity played in the NBA. He's in the G League now with my Golden State Warriors. And he was, we've seen this hashtag stop Asian hate because there's been discrimination against Asian people because the pandemic came from China, which is like, wow, that's people going to go so low as to criticize somebody just because this terrible virus came from their country. It's not their fault. Okay. Of course, we all know certain people refer to it as the Chinese virus, which is of course a slap in the face of our Asian brothers and sisters. So and you have Deshaun Jackson, what he said last year, and you have what Myers Leonard said the other day. It just goes to show you we got a long way to go. We got a long way to go. And it's at the end of the day, we need more love, less hate. It's that simple. So I hope Myers Leonard learns from this. I think all of us deserve a second chance. Again, that's not up to me to decide. As far as I'm concerned, that's up to the Jewish community. Because someone called me that word, I wouldn't be offended because I'm not Jewish. But a Jewish person would be offended because it's a slur. It was used by Nazi Germany towards Jews during the Holocaust. It's bad. It's really, really bad, guys. So we just got to see how it plays out from here. And what happens with his career and how, hopefully he learns from this. At the end of the day, what you want to happen, Myers Leonard, you want him to learn. You want him to learn from his mistake. And hopefully at the end of the day, man, I'm all about spreading the love in the world. So let's keep doing that and not hating each other as much, man. There's no need to have so much animosity towards each other. We all got to share this planet. Might as well like each other. So that being said, that is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you to Barry Grant Jr. for stopping by to talk about the Dak contract. Of course, we placed a bet on this show, so we're going to make sure that sticks, and we're going to hold each other to it as we should, and see how it plays out over the next 10 months or so. So that should be interesting. But hope everybody has a great week. Join us tomorrow, Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube Live and Twitter. Again, we're having some issues with our Facebook right now, live stream, so hopefully we can get that resolved. So please have a great evening. Please stay safe. God bless you all. Peace out.